Hello and welcome to What's On at Cineworld. I'm Laurie Blake. I'm joined by Luke Owen, and this is the show where we go through everything that's hitting the silver screen at Cineworld this week, and we also chat through some news from the land of Hollywood. Here is what's coming up on the show. Coming up on the show, we run through everything new hitting Cineworld screens this week, which includes the classic kung fu flick The Karate Kid, or you can have the time of your life watching Dirty Dancing.
Plus, we talk about the time-bending madness that is Tenet and the magical, mystical, monstrous New Mutants, both of which you can snag tickets for at Cineworld right now. Do you like scary movies? Because I definitely do, and I'm excited to discuss the first bit of new casting news for Scream 5, the continuation of Wes Craven's horror franchise.
Don't know if you know, Luke, but Cineworld cinemas, they're open in England and Wales now. They have been for a little while. But good news for people in Scotland and Dublin, because they're going to be reopening on the 26th of August too. So that is really good news for you. And that is pretty much just in time, because Tenet is about to hit cinemas incredibly soon. You can book tickets for them at all Cineworld cinemas now, including the ones that are closed. This is the film that I think... This is the reason to go back to the cinema for, right? This is kind of like, it's the next Christopher Nolan blockbuster. It's been 10 years since Inception. And interestingly, the 10th anniversary reissue of Inception has been put back into the cinemas, but it's also been including a 10-minute preview of Tenet. And what's really cool about this is that it's kind of still leaving people with all the same questions they went in with in the first place. Like, what is a Tenet? What happens in a Tenet film? What does it do? Because it all seems to be about, like, not time travel. It's called time inversion, which apparently is a real thing. So that's scary. And to sort of show this idea that, like, you don't want to go too far into like Doctor Who-isms and be like, it's all wibbly wobbly timey-wimey. But like, it seems that time is quite soupy in the world of Tenet, and it goes forwards and backwards almost at will, willy-nilly. And what's really interesting is that what's the 10-minute preview has shown people is that, like, really the depths of how that's been achieved in the film. There's obviously been certain shots in certain previews and trailers that we've seen before, but this 10-minute clip that people have watched in cinemas has really given sort of a proper look at what's happening. Because in typical Christopher Nolan fashion, all of this manipulation of time and space and stuff has been done practically. It's not been done using green screen. Apparently, like Robert Pattinson said, he hasn't seen a green screen on set at all. The stuntmen have said they've never worked on a film like Tenet before, because scenes are being shot both in forwards and reverse motion, like back to back, and then that's kind of creating this world in which people can pick things up by holding their hands over the top of it, and it will snap back into their fingers. And obviously that's like the lowest ebb of what really Nolan's probably going to achieve here, because it's going to go absolutely bonkers by the end of the film, you can imagine. I love the fact that it's filmed practically. I absolutely adore that idea. I think it's going to be amazing to see.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of talked a few weeks now about Tenet and sort of like, why we're excited to see this movie. But, we kind of talked about how, like, Christopher Nolan movies have been made for the big screen experience. And I think Christopher Nolan is one of those film directors that is in love with cinema. It's not just like the movie making process. He is in love with cinema and sort of the majesty of cinema and the sort of the movie magic that some modern day blockbusters might lose, because it is just actors in front of a big wall of green that they don't know what it looks like. I remember Anthony Hopkins, like Chris Hemsworth tells a story that when he went to the set of Thor the very first time in costume and everything with Anthony Hopkins and Tom Hiddleston, and they're basically just standing in front of this big green screen in their big massive costumes, and Anthony Hopkins turned to Chris Hemsworth and said, "Well, there's no acting required here."
They'll just add stuff in. It's fine.
But like, with Tenet and stuff, you don't have that sort of fall back on, because it's all being done practically. And I think that it's incredibly commendable in 2020, when this sort of thing is easily at your fingertips to do at the touch of a mouse click. You'll get a big, lovely background and stuff. And then that's not to take away from the green screen movies at all, because I think they're also really, really impressive. And there's an incredible amount of work that's gone into it. but these sorts of films don't come around very often. And so when they do feel a little bit sort of extra special. And yeah, you and I are going to go see Tenet next Wednesday. And I'm the closer it gets, the more excited I get about it.
Yeah, I'm stoked for this, and I think, like you said, it's you don't get films that come around like this that come around very often. And I think what's fascinating is like it leaves you with questions in just in the watching of just like enjoying the kind of process of cinema and being like, like you said about Thor. When you watch Thor do some lightning, you know how Thor did the lightning. It's someone sat at After Effects for a very long time and made that happen. Somebody Da Vinci resolved that. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, but watching this, it's going to be like, it's a puzzle for you as the viewer to work out, well, how did they actually film some of these scenes? And I'm sure it was a puzzle for them in the process of making these scenes, thinking, blooming heck, what have we signed ourselves up to? How are we going to, he wants the what to go where and the backwards? How are we going to do that? Like, I think it's going to be such a fascinating film to see. And, it feels like if Inception was a mix of practical effects and obviously digital manipulation to do all the cities folding in on themselves, and that was very 10 years ago, and the kind of the sea change in the way that people want to see cinema, and this big strive to move back to a world in which things are practical effects and things are real, and the audience watching it go, well, someone actually had to do that, and that actually had to happen for this to even be in the film. It feels like Tenet is as Christopher Nolan as you could possibly get, but still reflective of the time in cinema that we are in now. And that's going to be fantastic to see because, they're blockbusters, but they're so smart and they're so well made. And I'm really, really interested to see this. Another thing that I'm very interested to see, because it has been talked about for a very, very long time, since 2017, when it was filmed, is the New Mutants. It's actually happening.
I cannot believe that this is actually here. Like this isn't just like, oh, it might be coming out in these days. No, you're able to book tickets to go and see this movie now. Like that's remarkable. Like
it's amazing.
I've been doing movie podcasts for the better part of 15 years of my life, really. And I feel like I've spent the last 5 years of my life doing movie podcasts, talking about New Mutants and listening to movie podcasts or watching movie review shows here on YouTube, talking about New Mutants. And in the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, it's basically it's Gambit, isn't it? Like I'll go see Gambit after I've seen New Mutants, shall I?
Exactly. Well, egg on your face, Luke Owen.
Isn't it just, I had the same bit of crow and humble pie when I went to go see Venom at the cinema as well, because I was also that person like, well, Venom, here we are, 2020, and bloody New Mutants. It's finally here.
And you can book your tickets to see it at Cineworld. The tickets should be on sale now. They are for previews on the bank holiday weekend, 29th to 31st of August. And then the regular release date is the 4th of September. You should go and see it because, one, I think it's an artifact from 3 years ago, basically. But also, it's interesting because this is obviously the first X-Men film that's really been released under the Disney umbrella when Fox was bought by Disney. And Josh Boone has been sent back to tweak the film to bring it up to Disney standards. This is one of the films that when Fox was acquired, Disney went, I'm not so keen on this. And they've sent it back and it's been tweaked and brought up to kind of Disney and I guess Marvel standards there. So there's a lot of potential here for it to, one, be reflective of how mutants will be used going forward in the MCU. Hopefully, it also pertains to something that's going to happen in the MCU. Like hopefully this is the beginning of how do we bring the mutants in. And I think for that alone, it's worth watching. If you've watched the entire Marvel cinematic saga as it's gone on, you can't miss one.
No,
you can't. You need
not
it.
At this point.
Those little kernels of story. I'm too heavily invested to not see this. And also, like, it's got a fantastic cast. This is a really cool, interesting lineup of people they've chosen to be the leads in this film. You've got Maisie Williams, Anya Taylor-Joy, Charlie Heaton, Blue Hunt, and Henry Zaga, all as these like misfit, almost horror style, like it's weird in New Mutants, I think, because like they've presented it very much like a horror film, but the kids who are in the horror film, who would be like, we're the victims in this horror film, are also the monsters in this one. So it's a very interesting way of the world working. And yeah, like I said, you can book your tickets. There'll be a link in the description down below if you want to go see that at Cineworld Cinema. Same for Tenet.
Do you reckon the cast are booking their tickets to go see it just to remind themselves of what they filmed 3 years ago? Like,
Yeah.
do you remember when we did this?
I was so young. I was so young. I mean, Maisie Williams always looks quite young, but yeah, I think it would be very interesting to be like, yeah, because I imagine also there's got to be a bit of it where they can't really remember what the film was. So like, you know, even with the tweaks and stuff, they won't be like, wow, that's remarkably different to what we filmed originally. They'll just be like, yep, that seems like exactly what we did. Two other things hitting cinemas this week that I think are really worth going to see, and they're two classic films. There's The Karate Kid, and there is the Dirty Dancing 30th anniversary version. I like both of these films immensely. Karate Kid, slightly more than Dirty Dancing because it's a chick film. It's not. It's a great film. And I've watched a lot of documentaries about the making of Dirty Dancing, and it's a fascinating bit of cinema and like sort of uncompromising vision and something quite low budget that really outperformed expectations. Well worth going to see on the big screen if you can. Same goes for The Karate Kid. Which will you be going to see, Luke Owen, if you could?
I mean, I'm very much a Karate Kid. I bloody love that film. I think it's a classic from my childhood and one that I would like to see on the big screen again. Like Dirty Dancing, I feel like the funny thing about Dirty Dancing is that the first time I saw it, I watched it because there was a girl at uni that I fancied that I was trying to be a lad with and be like, yeah, we'll go over and we'll have a date night and you can watch Dirty Dancing and I'll be the bloke the sister will be like, whoa, how rubbish chick flick. And in the end I was like, actually this is pretty great. This is a really good film.
Nobody makes Luke watch films he doesn't want to watch. Oh no, I'm invested now. It's fine.
I'm actually massively invested.
Do you know what? Movie. Actually, I have had the time of my life,
and I do owe it all to you, Lindsay.
Yeah. There you go. Well, you know, if you want to recreate one of Luke's dates from many years ago, book your tickets to see those films in the cinema. So another thing that's come out this week, Luke, that I think you'll be very interested in talking about is the first bit of casting for Scream 5. This is the first bit of new casting because there's been some old casting, and that old casting has lasted from the first film. It's Courtney Cox and David Arquette will be reprising their roles. There is also talk that Neve Campbell is in talks to reprise her role in the film as well. However, this new news, it's from Deadline, and it says that Melissa Barrera, who is going to be in The Heights, will be playing a new character and potentially even like the key role in this, because the official synopsis for Scream 5 is it's a new installment of the Scream horror franchise, and which will follow a woman returning to her hometown to find out who has been committing a series of vicious crimes. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun.
My Siri's just got off from somewhere on that. What do you think I was saying when you decided that you were listening?
Is this the plot of the new Scream movie? Is actually Siri?
Yeah. Well, this is. I mean, we were talking about what's it called last week, weren't we? With all the
oh yeah, it was Spree.
Yeah, we were talking about Spree last week, and I don't know.
Yeah, I'm dead excited for this. I love the Scream franchise. While I think that the 2 and 3 certainly have their issues, I'm a big supporter of Scream 4, which I think is massively, criminally underrated. It didn't perform particularly well at the box office, and that's kind of why the Scream 5 has taken so long to get here. Wes Craven was originally going to do Scream 5 shortly after Scream 4. They set up like a whole new series of characters to work with, but it underperformed enough for the studios to be like, nah, we're not going to do this. But enough time has passed that we're now getting Scream 5 under a new director, the Ready or Not filmmakers, which is going to be released next year. But like, I've always really enjoyed the Scream movies. You know, Scream 1 was a great kind of parody postmodern telling of like, here is what horror films, here's what like slasher movies have been from 1978 up until now. This sort of like thing is dead. And then when we got Scream 4, it was very much looking at the reboots that we had been getting. We got like a big series of slasher reboots: Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, etc., etc. So they were looking at that. So now we're going to be moving into this new era. Like, what is Scream 5 going to be a parody / postmodern telling of? Like, what is the horror trope now that they're going to be pregnant? Because we haven't really had slasher movies, not even remakes, for a while now. So what is kind of Scream 5's calling card? Like, I'm just really interested to see what story they're looking to tell in 2020.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's going to be something, like a bit like Ready or Not, where it's that, there's that whole idea now of, we don't just want to make final girls victims anymore. We want to make them secret heroines, and we want to see them actually use their wits and outsmart these bad guys. And that's something that sort of Ready or Not did a bit, and that's something that You're Next did very brilliantly. Yeah. And I think that's definitely like a kind of modern trope of horror cinema that Scream could really play up nicely in this, especially if you're going to introduce a new character with mysterious backgrounds, and especially if they've come here specifically to investigate the killings. There's that kind of I'm already on your case vibe, rather than just being like having it all happen to you. Seeking it out is definitely something that I think characters in modern horror are more inclined to do. And yeah, I'm excited to see where they go, because I love the Scream franchise too, and I think I love anything where it's sort of inward facing at the same time as being like, it revels in all the slasher tropes, and it somehow gets away with that sort of sly wink of like, well, we know we're doing it, but anyway, we're doing it. And I think Scream is the best at that. So I'm really, really excited to see what happens with this. And hopefully 2021 release date that it was slated for, that was pre any of the lockdowns and stuff like that. So hopefully that's not going to be impacted too much. And once filming starts up again in earnest, they can get the film out, and then maybe Halloween next year we'll be watching Scream 5, which would be pretty decent. Well, that is all we have time for on this edition of What's On at Cineworld. If you like the video, give us a like. If you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please do, because we're doing one of these episodes every single Friday, running through what's happening in the cinema. And also, if you liked the sound of any of the films that we talked about earlier in the show, you can get your tickets for them by clicking the link in the description down below. Thanks for watching. See you later. Goodbye.